All right, so this is the second episode of our series, and we're going to be talking about identifying your why in trading. And we're going to be talking about how did we identify our why and what's our why in trading. So I think I think identifying your why is very important because it's one of the key things that's going to help you stay grounded and also keep you motivated in your trading journey. So anytime there's a big drawdown coming or you just feel like, well, I'm hitting a plateau in my journey, or you want to accelerate by over trading or over risking or any of that, your why is the one that's going to help you stay grounded during
Mm.
those times, because you need to first of all have a very strong why, right? And that's going to help you stay grounded because anytime you want to over risk, you'll understand why you're trading first of all, right? And that's what's going to help you throughout your entire journey, but it can often change time to time. So if coming in your why is just financial freedom and you ultimately gain financial freedom, then your why changes to, well, now you probably have a passion for financial markets, or
Or just new goals.
right. And then it's pretty much your goals. Exactly what you said, Stefanos.
Yep.
So we'll get into that now. We'll start off with Stefanos. First of all, how did you get into trading? And then what's kept you in this industry?
Yeah, I was it's funny, yes. I was originally in sales. I was in credit card processing and a couple different things as well, but mainly credit card processing. And in between my career with that, I realized that I didn't want to be selling. I didn't want to be talking to business owners and kind of like, just either lowering their rates and doing all that stuff like that. I couldn't see myself doing that in the long run. Like, we were good with it. We had an office in Asbury Park. I don't know if many of you guys know where that is, but it's pretty famous city in New Jersey. But we had a nice office up there and everything. Ended up selling the book, but um, in between my career with that, I picked up trading stocks as a hobby. I just started getting into reading books about stocks, understanding balance statements, income sheets, looking at what kind of industry I wanted to focus on, whether it was tech or maybe I was getting into ETFs a lot as well. So I was doing that, and then I was approached. A lot of people get into Forex through the IML. I didn't get into IML. I never did that. But what I did was there was a company that had like an automated trading bot that I had no idea what Forex was. It's funny because someone introduced me to it. I started getting into the company. I was like, oh, okay, if I could just put money into this thing, it'll start making me money. Let's try it out. And I remember somebody in the group that was a client as well. I remember hopping on a Zoom with him. I had no idea what MetaTrader 4 was. I had no idea what a pip was. A lot. I didn't know what anything was in Forex. And he's showing me how to set up my account, how to set up MetaTrader with this bot. And long story short, as you probably would guess, the bot didn't really work. So I got into it and said, why don't I just do this on my own? Like, why don't I start this out? And then long story short, ended up meeting a buddy of mine, Brandon Leon, down in Miami. Ended up being a great friend of mine. I went down there for about a week. We went out. We focused on Forex throughout the week, but at night we would go out, and that's where we kind of developed a great friendship. But one night we were sitting on the balcony, and he's telling me about trading and all these guys around the world that are pretty big in the market. Obviously, like Sean Lee, all these people. And then he mentioned someone that really just focuses on price action, studying candles, studying wicks. And this is when Rakil was getting a little bit bigger at that time. And I'm like, as soon as he said that, that just clicked with me. I was like, that's exactly, because I'm very analytical. I wanna be able to read the candles and wicks and not have to use any indicators or anything like that. So after that trip, ended up coming back home, doing my research. Ended up being Wicks Don't Lie, Rakil. We hopped on the FaceTime and we were on there for like an hour, just shooting the shit, going back and forth. We realized our psychology is very similar, um, especially when it comes to trading. And we just developed a friendship from there. Didn't take me long to join the Forex family and take with me. This is a little tangent, but like, I don't spend money on myself. I don't like spending money on clothes or anything like that, at least for now.
Mhm.
But what I will do is I do not hesitate on spending money on myself and investing in myself, buying mentorships, or investing into a business that makes sense. I have no problem doing that. But when it comes to spending money on me, so I had no hesitation to jump on with Raquel. Now, the reason I say that is because when I was down in Miami, a friend of mine came down there as well to learn how to trade, and he ended up moving in with me. He's from Ohio. We met through a company a while ago, but he ended up moving in with me for 6 months. So we would do kind of like a Forex boot camp of just digging in for 6 months, and that's where I really developed my skill. And then COVID is where I really kind of turned the corner. So um, it was funny because having him there, that helped me with my discipline, because he didn't have discipline, and he didn't have the emotional makeup to trade. It was very erratic, very all over the place, and I learned, all right, it can't be like that. So that was very helpful for me. I was always trying to help him and everything, but he had a hard head, so it's
Yeah.
hard getting through to people like that. So maybe Forex wasn't for him, but um, that's kind of how I got into it, and I fell in love with it. And I say to people all the time, say to my guys, say to anybody I meet, that we all get in it for money. That's the main thing. That's the main goal. We're trying to make money, and nobody can lie about that or say like, oh, it's not about the money. Yeah, it's about the money, but it's got to be even bigger than the money. It's got to be, you get into the market and you realize you love to back this, you love to journal, you love going through those losing phases where things suck, or you're going through a losing streak and you're just questioning yourself. I love that. I embrace that, because that's where you get much better, and you need that. So that's where your mindset should be. Is I love this game. I love getting better at it. I love the struggle. I love the success. I love everything about it. That's where your head's got to be.
That's awesome. I think it's pretty amazing the journey that you've had from sales and then coming into trading. And I'm pretty sure that there have been a lot of things that must have overlapped as well. Definitely work ethic and sales. Like you gotta have amazing work ethic. You gotta have that drive to just keep
Yeah,
going, because obviously you gotta be used to hearing no and being okay with hearing no and then moving forward. And I think it's
great point.
pretty similar in the markets in the sense that, I mean, the market's not going to speak to you. It's not going to say no, like verbally,
Mm,
but getting those
but
losses
it'll
and
deny
being
you.
okay. Yeah. And then getting those losses and being okay with the losses, and then understanding like, okay, well, this is where I went wrong. And then how do I move forward and become better? So I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other things that must have overlapped between the two
I
for you.
think, yeah, it was definitely a combination of that and being an athlete too. I think athletes, there's this kid Bish Capital. I don't know if you follow him or he follows you, but we always go back and forth. But he was a receiver at Memphis, and
Mhm.
we both talk about how, like, playing college football, being an athlete, that definitely helps, because you have that work ethic. And like you said, that my journey has been pretty interesting. It goes even farther back, too. So it's just developing over time, and embracing all your challenges or whatever you've been through. And I always tell people that a lot of you guys are probably in your 20s. So your 20s are typically made, or not made, but like your 20s are typically for learning what exactly you want to do as an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, you really got to figure out what you want to do. You got to dip your toes into different industries, and understand what you want. Some people get lucky, and the first thing they jump into, they love, and that's it. But some people, you got to go through the grind, and doing many different things. Like, I took my Series 7. I was hired by a company to do that. Like, there's been a whole journey of that. So
Right.
you go through your whole 20s trying to figure out what you want to do. Then you turn your corner around the late 20s. And then the 30s is where you're just kind of rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Mine was starting off with, obviously everyone knows, pretty young age. So obviously at that point you don't really know what you want to do exactly. And for me it was always I want to do something with investments and the financial markets. And so entire time just growing up, going through like high school, college, it was like, all right, well, ultimately I want to go to law school, right? So that's what the goal has been. And then it was, okay, in law school, what exactly do I want to practice? And again, I know that it has to be with financial markets and investments. So right now, even when I'm like going through post college, going through masters, that's what I'm thinking about, right? So what do I want to do next? So that's kind of where my journey is coming from, where I want to learn about the financial markets. This is where everything kind of started for me. It was in the stock market and then going into the foreign exchange market, but also knowing that, well, outside of this, how am I going to use all this knowledge? How am I going to use all this skills that I'm learning here into something else, something bigger? And that's pretty much my why of coming in, where it's like, I love investments. And then this is what I got into at a pretty young age, and understanding like, okay, well, I'm doing pretty decent at it. I wouldn't say like great or anything like that, but I'm doing pretty
What?
decent at it.
Now you're killing
And
it.
yeah, just like going forward, it's like, all right, well, what do I want to do? And sometimes it's also like, well, you have to assess yourself at every point and understand like, why are you doing it, right? And again, I that's where the big why comes in. It's like, why do I want to go to law school? If why can't I go trade for a bank, or
Mm.
go be at a venture capital and do investments there, or why don't I just become an angel investor on my own? Things like that, and constantly thinking about it. And that's the same exact thing that I try to bring into the financial markets as well. So it's every time I'm taking a trade, why am I taking the trade? Right? Understanding that it's never like, well, I have the analysis, but I don't have the confidence of it. If like, let's see if it plays out, right? You always got to have confidence in your decisions. And I think that's very important, especially in the financial markets. You go in with, I have the analysis, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. You're playing that 50-50 game at that point, right? You're not confident going in. And I think that's one of the important things. And that's part of like the trading plan, the checklist that I have, having that confidence. And my why of just coming into the financial markets, like you said, there's a component of making money. And obviously, when you come from, and I'm pretty sure you understand, when you come from a family of, your parents immigrated here from another country and all of that,
Same boat.
yeah, and for them
No
it's like,
pun
all right,
intended.
well, for them it's like have a stable job. And then even for my two older brothers, like, all right, go to school, get an education, have a stable job. So for me, I actually started without my parents knowing this,
Okay.
for a very long time. And I actually didn't tell them about this maybe until like 2 years ago. And that was because for me, it was that my parents wouldn't really, if I went to them, I was like, all right, dad, I want to go invest in the stock market, foreign exchange market. The very first thing that comes into a lot of people's mind is it's gambling. Like, nothing about it. And if
Mm.
I was 14 telling my dad I want to get into the stock market, like that was like, it wasn't even possible in his head at that time. So
Just
for
didn't
me, it
compute.
was, I want to build something for myself in this industry. So going back and showing my dad, like, all right, dad, like I've actually made money in this. I've actually had somewhat of success in this. And that's where, when I finally did that, that's when they were like, okay. But even my mom at that time, she was skeptical of it. And she was like, oh, if you're like, that good at it, here's $100, go flip that for me. And then by the end of the week, I was able to like turn that $100 into $400, brought it back, gave her the cash, like, here you go. And that's when she was like, okay, well, I guess you don't have to have a job. They're
That's
like, this
awesome.
is your
Is
job.
now what was the turning point that caused you to bring that to them and say, all right, like was it a milestone that you reached, or and also
It
what was their
was,
reaction?
well, like I said, my goal was going into law school. So throughout college, I did a ton of internships, paid, unpaid, and also a ton of just networking and all of that. So it was like, okay, well, this is what I want to get into. And then for them, it's like, well, why aren't you working at a lawyer's office like part time while you're in college? Or
Yeah,
why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And
like a
then,
paralegal.
right. And then it's like telling them, like, okay, well, what you don't see what I'm doing because I'm not really showing you the real work that I'm doing behind the scenes. Like trading for a lot of people, it's like you're sitting in front of the screen, you do a couple of buy sales and you're out, right? It's a lot more than that. And that's what people don't really understand.
Mm.
Whether I know a lot of people are going to go through this where it's like, well, I started trading, my friends, family, they don't understand. They think it's so easy, this and that. There's actually a lot of work that goes behind it. And so that's when I finally got that little bit of success where I made some money in it, that's where I went to them. I was like, okay, well, dad, I was doing all these internships. Obviously, I want to go to law school, so I have to have some of that network and all of that. But also, this is exactly what I'm interested in, into financial markets, into investments. And if I went to them without that proof, pretty much of what I've been doing so far, if I've made anything, if I went to them without that, then it would be, well, you have no idea about it.
Mm.
Well, how are you getting into it, or why are you getting into it? It's so risky, this and that. But once you go to them with proof, then to them it's like, okay, well, obviously you know what you're doing if
Yeah.
you're doing so well. And so that
That's
was
all.
kind of the turning point where it's like I need to have some proof for myself to show them.
100%. Now, I think this is gonna help a lot of people out there. But like when you say there's a lot more that goes behind it, and obviously I know that as well. But
Yeah.
what exactly do you mean? Like, is it research, backtesting?
It's research. So first of all, understanding exactly what you're doing, just understanding buy trend, sell trend, whatever, bullish trend, bearish trend isn't enough, right? So there's psychologically, there's a lot going on in your mind when you're looking at that. You're analyzing, like you said, looking at candles, looking at wicks. What does that exactly mean? What does a doji mean? What does it mean when a candle comes in a certain trend? Or why is the market moving a certain way? Even from a fundamental perspective. So for my approach, which is using market sentiment analysis, technical analysis, and fundamental analysis, putting all that together, obviously you're using three different approaches. So you have to understand what's happening in every single approach. So in a fundamental perspective, that's where central banks are putting some interest rates, monetary policies. You have speeches coming out, understanding what do they all mean, and then how do they translate into the markets. From a technical side, I think that's where the hardest part comes in, because yeah, you have a bullish candle, a bearish candle, but what's it doing at every single level, right? Doing that research, doing that entire analysis, putting in that work. It's long hours of work, obviously. Like I've spent numerous sleepless nights in the financial markets, especially in college, where I'm doing work on one screen and then on the other screen, like I'm looking at the charts.
Mm,
Or, if I only had a laptop when I started off, I only had a laptop. I didn't have like two screens.
yeah.
So it was looking at the charts on my phone while doing homework on my laptop. But it's going through that process of, all right, and analyzing the market. What is the market doing at every single step? And then also your psychology along the way, right? Psychologically, the financial markets can take a huge toll on you,
Mm,
right? And I'm pretty sure you would agree, where
mhm.
it's not as simple as click a buy, click a sell, right? It's understanding like where are you clicking that buy, why are you clicking that buy, and then how do you manage your risk? And if the trade goes the other way, then how are you going to manage it? If it goes your way, then how do you still manage it, right? You still have to take partials, you still have to move to break even, you still have to go risk free, all of that. And then also making sure you're not over risking, over trading. A lot of people fall right into that, where it's all right, well, I have to make money. If that's your why going in, you're already going to have that pressure on your mind that I have to make money. So every time you have a loss, you're going to try to make that back.
Mhm.
Realistically, that loss is done. You're never going to make that money back. The money's gone. Think about it like it's burned. You're not going to bring it back from the ashes, right? So it's
Mhm.
like understanding, like, okay, well, that money's gone now. How do I make, or compensate for that plus more? That's the only way that you can move forward. There's no
Mhm.
way for you, if you lost $10, there's no way for you to make that $10 back again, right?
Yep.
If you think about it, it's all right, well, I just lost $10, but if I hadn't lost this $10 and then in my next trade I made $10 again, I'm not really, moving to break even. It's just now I have additional $10 in my account,
Yep.
right? So that's the way to think about it. Never think about it like I just lost $10. All right, in the next trade I'll make $10 again,
Yep. You're just
right?
stacking smart trade on top of smart trade. You're not, if you take a loss, you're not trying to make that loss back. That's gonna fuck with your head.
Right.
It's all just about stack a good trade on top of a good trade, and that's it. Manage your loss. If you got a loss coming in, manage the risk, and that's it.
Right. And that's the type of hard work that goes into it. So not everyone can do it. Very easily, people will come in, they'll just look at the charts. First of all, you pull up a chart to anyone, your friends, family, who have no idea about the financial markets, they're just going to look at me like, oh, red, green candles, yay, Christmas time.
Hmm.
Right. But they're not going to understand what's the market doing. They don't understand when market's consolidating, the market's collecting orders. What does that even mean?
Or more
Right?
importantly, why?
Yeah. So why why is the market collecting orders? Why is the market moving sideways? What does that essentially even mean?
Yeah.
So understanding all of that, and I'm pretty sure like it's the same in any other discipline, not just the financial markets. But if you go into like anything else, like medicine or whatever, like it's same exact hard work that
Yeah.
goes into it,
Oh
right?
yeah.
To be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be an engineer, you're putting countless hours into the work, and it's the same
Hmm.
exact in financial markets. So I think that's another thing that people tend to struggle with as well.
It's very psychological, and I found it's much different than other things. Like it's very similar to what you were just saying, but it's also much different. So like if you're looking at sales, I always use this analogy. Like if you're looking at sales, everything's got to be done like now. Stop looking at like 60 or 90-day goals. Focus on now, because if you keep looking at 60, 90-day goals, it's just going to delay you. You're just going to put things off till tomorrow, where
Right.
you could get a lot more done today. With trading, you need to look at the long term. Because if you look at the short term, like now, it's never going to work. It's the same thing with playing golf.
Mm-hmm.
Golf, you got to focus on the one hole at a time, and you can't let each hole get to you. You can't try to make the next hole back if you, have a double bogey or something like that. I don't know if you
Right.
understand
Yeah.
these terms, but yeah, I'm sure a lot of people do. But yeah, you can't try to make that hole back. You just got to focus on one hole at a time. It's very similar to trading.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's what's kept me in the industry as well. So that hard work, understanding that you're putting in as much work as you would if I was going to law school right now instead of doing a master's, I would be putting the same exact hard work.
Oh
And that's
yeah.
what the financial markets have taught me over the years as well. The stock market, the foreign exchange market, the hard work that you have to put in, and having that discipline, I think has is what the financial markets has taught me the most. Showing up every day, and then also understanding, being very comfortable with understanding that not every day has to be a trade day,
Yep.
right? So you don't have to take an entry every single day. If your optimal or your desired setup doesn't show up, then you shouldn't be trading that. And I
Yep.
think that's what's very important just in anything in general. And that's where my interest for investments has sparked in the financial markets. So taking all the skills, taking everything that I've learned from here, and then taking that outside of the financial markets, looking at real estate, looking at startup companies to invest in, being part of other syndicates, whatever it is. That's where financial markets is pretty much where my start was, and that's where I learned a lot of my skills, a lot of my knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really just pay enough attention and pay and give enough time to the foreign exchange market or the stock market, you will learn how a lot of the smart money moves,
Yep.
right? And how do you move with it? And how do you accumulate, I guess, more money or become better at investments outside of the financial markets?
Yep.
So if you dedicate enough time to it, enough effort to it, enough energy to it, you're going to learn a lot more than just hitting that buy sell, hitting that stop loss, hitting that TP level.
Yep. 100%. Couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
And just to bring it back to the work ethic thing, like that doesn't change across any industry, like,
Right,
or any kind of field that you're in, whether it's sports or whatever your career is. Like work ethic is work ethic.
right,
So you got to keep that. But the psychological part about it, it does change
right.
within different industries.
And I think that's where the saying comes where 90% of the traders fail. And I think it's because of
More.
psychology. And it's
Yeah.
because people aren't able to put themselves or strengthen themselves psychologically. They're not able to put themselves in challenging positions where they're forced to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true of anything else that you do. So it's the same exact thing in athletics, for example, when you're working out, you have to, from a psychological perspective, you have to be comfortable and understand, like, yes, you can lift that 100 pounds, right? Or you can do like 70-pound curl ups or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, I think that psychology is a huge barrier in whatever they do. And that's what you have to surpass. And that's what your why helps you do as well. So if
Yeah.
you understand your why of why you're getting in, even if it's just starting off, I think it's fine. If you're like, I want to make some money, whatever it is, it's fine. But your why obviously has to be bigger than that if you want to stay in this industry, right? So I think that's fine as long as you get in and you understand that you're gonna have to push yourself no matter what in this industry, right? You're
Yeah.
gonna have to be able to kind of get yourself onto the next level.
Your why is your foundation. Like
Right,
it's the most important thing. I mean, there you could say that about everything, like discipline and all that stuff. But like
right,
your why is your foundation, and it's what's going to bring you back. It's what's going to ground you as to if you're going through a losing streak. Instead of quitting, you result back to your why if it's strong enough, and you won't quit.
right.
You put that
Absolutely.
work in.
So another question that I had was, what was your biggest challenge or failure in this industry, and how has your why helped you get past that?
So mine, I think is just risk, is putting more money on the line, and that's something that's always been more uncomfortable for me. You started out a little bit differently, right? So you started out with swinging, just doing 1 cent lots, and obviously you built your confidence through there. With me, I started scalping, so it's a little different. It's a much different style, obviously, but it's a little different psychologically when it comes to risk. But in the same sense, it is the same too.
Mhm.
But putting more money on the line is something I've gotten more used to. One thing that have learned, it's much harder to manage risk when you're risking more
Mhm.
on the line, because you just don't want to take that loss. You don't want to close 50. It's just that thing that creeps into your head. I don't know what it is, a little worm, whatever you want to call it. It's like a virus that just creeps in. You're just like, nope, don't close. That's where the discipline comes in.
Right.
But yeah, my biggest challenge has always been the risk, putting more money on the line. I'm getting more and more used to it, and I'm getting more comfortable with it as my confidence grows
Mhm.
from putting the work in. But yeah, that's probably been mine. How about yourself?
For me, it would be just, I guess, from a psychological perspective, risking more hasn't been a challenge for me, because it's like, for me, I've set goals like, well, if I can successfully, let's say at 1% risk, if I can successfully for like 3 to 4 months have consecutive wins, or at least have like, let's say, a 90% win rate. I always try to go for like about 85 to 90% win rate. If I can go for that, then I'll slowly start to increase my risk. For me, the biggest challenge for me in the market has been putting in, I guess, the market sentiment along with the fundamental and technical analysis. And that's because you can learn technical analysis, you can learn fundamental analysis, but there is very little on understanding how do those two come together and create market sentiment analysis.
Mm.
And we know that obviously it's a three-legged stool of market sentiment analysis, fundamental analysis, and technical analysis. So that was my biggest challenge here. And that has also taught me that you're never going to stop learning in this industry.
Oh
So
no,
that was the
too much
biggest
to learn.
lesson for me as well, in
Yeah.
disguise of a challenge.
Wow. And how are you doing with it?
I think it's been great putting all that together, understanding, all right, exactly at every single point, looking at it from a swing trade perspective or even a scout perspective, at every single point, whenever there's a news coming out or whenever the market's reacting in a certain way. For example, if there's consolidation, then that's telling me that yes, market's collecting orders, but also from a market sentiment perspective, that is uncertainty in the market at that time, because the investors, they're waiting for a bigger news. So for example, as of right now, if people were to look at gold, there's consolidation happening, right? But also, we know that there's some important news coming out throughout the week, especially on Friday. We have a ton of PMI news coming out. So that's where, I guess, putting together, that's what's been the holy grail of trading for me.
Mm.
Putting all that together, putting all three types of analysis together, and approaching the market from every different perspective and understanding it from a whole holistic perspective of what's happening in the market.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was the biggest challenge, but that was also one of my biggest success in the market as well.
Because you
And
work
it's,
so hard at it.
yeah, and it's through, again, same exact thing where you put in hours of research, understanding like, okay, how do the fundamentals translate onto the charts, right? And then what does that tell you about investors in general? What does that tell you about smart money in general? What does that tell you about how the institutions are moving the markets? All of
Mhm.
that. And that's where a lot of the hard work comes in. That's also where the psychology comes in, being okay with understanding exactly what you said, that it's not about everything about now, it's about the future, right?
Mm.
And educating yourself every, putting in weeks, months, and educating yourself just throughout the entire process, and understanding that this is a never ending process of learning, no
No,
matter
no,
what you do.
I say that all the time as well. It's never ending. There's nothing like you can't just know it all. I feel like that's truly impossible.
Right.
Um, with you, like I know you've studied like Robin Lumsdale. I
Mhm.
think that's how you say her name.
Right.
All these different people. these are kind of virtual mentors. But have you actually had like an actual mentor that has brought you through the Forex market?
No, so it's been through just self-education and also
Awesome.
just reaching out to people. But again, this is where majority of people, I'm pretty sure, can relate. It's whenever you reach out to someone, a mentor on Instagram or any other social media platform, their first response was always, "Yeah, I'm happy to answer this question. You can just join my mentorship. The link's in my bio."
Yeah.
And
Or what's your credit card number?
yeah, any of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's like, bro, I'm just asking like a very simple question,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything as simple as, well, when does the market open up, or why do you trade, or like, I was studying your setups, I was looking at your videos, I had a question about it, things like that, like super basic.
Yeah.
And I think that brings us right into our next question, which is like, what are your goals in this industry? And that's what one of my goals is for creating Sharmafx.
Yeah.
So even though I started off as an Instagram page, turned into a mentorship, and I do have future goals for it, but that's what Sharmafx was all about. Where, you know, a beginner comes in and they're asking someone experienced on Instagram just a quick thought process, or like, I was looking at your videos, a big fan, whatever it is, and here's my chart that I've analyzed according to whatever you speak about. Can you just take a quick look at it, just giving
Mm.
them quick feedback.
Yeah.
And that's what my goal is, to make sure that people don't have to go through that,
Yeah.
and bring in that change, and providing as much education as possible in this space, providing as much value as possible in this space, and helping beginners have a much better start than majority of us have had in this industry.
100%. And we've always had this kind of synergy where we think the same way when it comes to that, and
Right.
that's exactly why I started mine. Is
Mhm.
because whenever you would reach out to somebody or anything like that, and then also I haven't had much experience with scammers. To
Mhm.
be honest with you, other than that, like that bot in the beginning that I learned about, but that honestly, it's a blessing in disguise that brought me into Forex. But again, that's why I started it. It's just, and then also because I was doing so many lives with people, just like one-on-one Zooms, helping people out, answering questions if I could. Like, I was still, yeah, and I still am in a way, still in the beginning stages of what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, like I felt like there was maybe a step above a lot of the people that I was helping out, just
Mhm.
because of the work I was putting in. That comes right back to the work ethic and
Right.
simulating every single day, multiple times a day. Um, I wish I still had time to do that, but not as much. But um, yeah, that's why I started the mentorship, is because I was helping out a lot of people, and I just want to keep doing it, but also get people to where they possibly could be in life, and they know that they need to form better habits in life. They need a better structure in their life to eventually translate right into the markets, which it does.
Mhm.
And you think the right way, be the right way, and that's kind of where I've kind of focused it on it, and the psychology about it, and knowing that trading is almost like 99% psychology.
Right.
As long as you can control yourself, you'll be good, but most people can't. So that's what we really focus on: staying controlled, even keeled, no emotions in the markets, as much as you can at least. And that's kind of why I started mine. And yeah, very similar goals. Like I would love to be recognized as one of the best. Not that I'm over here like some of these other traders where it's like my strategy is the best, or my technicals are better than your technicals, or like fundamentals are more important than technicals. It can't be like that. It could be like a friendly competition, or not even a friendly competition, just like bouncing ideas off each other and
Right.
stuff like that, but also recognized as someone leading in the industry, as someone obviously not a scammer that just
Right.
wants people's money, all that shit, but just brings value as much as I can.
Absolutely. And I think for both of us, that's the goal. That's why we're working together. I mean, we have two
Yeah.
separate mentorships. And that's another question that I get a lot of the time. It's like, are you both in the same mentorship, or
Mm.
a bonus
Can we
question?
get both of you guys together
Yeah.
in one mentorship? It's actually a good idea.
And then another bonus question for both of us, I guess, I just thought of it, is another question that I get a lot is, well, if you're starting off this page just to help people, then why are you starting the mentorship?
Yeah.
And
I
My
actually haven't gotten that much.
I got that as soon as
I
I started
expect it,
Sharma.
but I never really get that question.
I got that as soon as I started Sharmafx, and thinking about it. I mean, obviously, I started the mentorship after thinking about it a lot, and I, asked myself the same questions too. That
Mhm.
if I'm doing the same exact thing that you're doing, which is getting on Zoom calls or answering people's DMs, going through the analysis with them, walking through them with fundamentals or whatever it is, uh, helping them, then why the mentorship? And essentially, for me, it comes down to you can only help someone so much through just constant Instagram DMs back and forth.
Mm,
What people need the most, yes, I can show you exactly how to do technical analysis. I can help you exactly with fundamental analysis. I can show you how both of them work together to, come together as market sentiment analysis. And then how do you take trades based off of all three of them? I can show all that to you through Instagram, through texting, all of that. But what makes the difference for people is having that community around you. And
mm.
I
Oh
think
yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's what got me to the next step in my own trading journey, where, like I said, a lot of it was through self education,
Mhm.
reading up a lot, watching a lot of videos, and then reading books, whatever it is. But I never had that community with other like minded people. Yes, I
Yeah.
went on Instagram and I saw other people like, some were flexing, some were actually giving out knowledge, but it's never you. I was never part of that group. I was never part of a community. And I
Gotcha.
think, in a sense, like it's a blessing because that doesn't influence how I think. And that's how, and I guess that's what it's been a blessing because if I was in a community before, if I was part of another group before, then I wouldn't have learned to trust my analysis at every single step.
Mm,
I would have never learned how to pretty much think for my own, do my own analysis, do my own research.
mm.
And you see a lot of people being dependent. So whenever, a lot of times I
Yes.
get a quick like DM or anything like that, that are just asking me super basic questions that you could very easily just Google, right?
Mhm.
Even that little quick like interaction, I'm more than happy to answer the question for you, no problem. But it as a mentor or just someone else, it shows like, well, this was a quick question that you could have just Googled easily, so why didn't you just do that? What is
Of course.
leverage, or what time does London open up, or what time does New York open up, like things like that. Right, it's the small things. But coming back to why the mentorship, it's to build that community for those people. So I think the community is what takes people to the next step. And personally, even for me, when I started building the Sharmafx community and people started coming in and we were talking, we were going through live trades together on Zoom calls and all of that.
Mhm.
Just listening to everyone's stories, listening to everyone's background, listening to everyone's experience so far in the markets, why they're here, has kind of helped me in my own journey as well as a mentor and as a trader.
Oh,
So I think
100%.
that's why Sharma FX is still there with the Instagram page with the still value and education, all of that. But that's why there's the mentorship as well to
Yeah.
further take that to the next step for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And like you said,
Mm.
help them become more successful in their life, in other aspects of their life. So Sharma FX, and same like your mentorship, isn't just about trading. It's about, well, how do you become that next step, or how do you get to that next step in your life? How do you use the same skills, same knowledge, all of that outside of trading into other parts of your life, no matter what you want to do.
100%. Yeah, and it's the same exact thing for me. I mean, the community is huge.
Right,
And even before I started the mentorship, when I would hop on lives with people or hop on lives on Instagram, I love seeing where people are from all over the world, and it gives you perspective. It grows you as a person. It's like,
right,
wow, this person's from Iran or South Africa or yeah, Indonesia, and it's like they're struggling, or the government is much different over there than it is here, and they
right.
have some restrictions or other things like that. Like it's a lot harder for those people, and I totally get that. But it puts things into perspective. That's why I have this flag behind me, because it's like we are in the greatest nation in the world, and we have so many opportunities. Anybody that complains about that, it's just like you have everything at your fingertips. You could do whatever you want in this country as long as you put your head down and work. It's
Yeah,
amazing. But when it comes to the mentorship, like and I still do them. I do lives with people. If you have questions, if you need like answers, you want me to look over trades, if you're journaling, a lot of these people that hop on a live with me, they don't journal. So there's nothing for me to look over. But if you want to do that, we still do that for free. Like if you want to schedule something with me, we do it. But there was that when I would hop on a live, you can tell within the first minute if this is somebody that like I want to really work with and I could see myself helping in the long term, or if this is somebody that is probably not going to be around in this industry for long due to their own mentality, their signal grabbers or people like that. You could tell very quickly. I obviously help them right away. But then again, when it comes to those people that I want to be around and I could see myself really coaching or being part of this community, it's like, all right, what are your long-term goals? What are your short-term goals? Like how can I help you in the long run to see if maybe we could get some more out of you? And that's what the whole mentorship is built around. I think your mentorship is really focused on helping people with fundamentals and technicals, understanding market sentiment, everything about the industry as a whole. Mine is too, obviously, but it's also about getting more out of people on the psychology part about getting the most out of yourself in life, and it comes right back to the why. Like, why are you doing this? How to develop that why? How to get the most out of yourself every single day and push yourself to the absolute limit, because it's going to benefit you not only in trading but in life, in your relationships, and in your business, your career, whatever. It's you want to get the most out of yourself, and not everyone is like that. So the select few, that's what I built the community for.
Yeah. So we talk about pretty much same exact things, where we talk about, well, how do you take this knowledge outside of trading?
Exactly.
So there's actually an investment group that we have as well, where we're talking about like real estate or starting your own business, angel investing, like so many different parts. And how do you take the same exact skills? But again, it starts off with exactly what you're saying. How do you start off in this industry, learn everything that you can, and then take that to the outside into other investments.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're like exactly.
I didn't mean to say that's all your mentorship was. I was just saying, like, I think you have more experience than me when it comes to some of that stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, we're similar in a lot of ways, but also we're different as well, and it's because of the experiences that we bring, right? So for you, for example, journaling, everyone knows, Steph knows for journaling, right? Like everyone.
That's kind of how I felt the name over here.
Yeah, so it's journaling, and then for me, it's similar. Where I started off journaling. I mean, too young to invest, whatever, right? Got an Excel sheet, and I started journaling. I mean, if I could invest right now, then what price would I invest in? How much would I invest? How many shares would I buy? That kind of thing, and then also putting the date and everything. So if you actually look at my portfolio, it still dates back to 2014 for some of the stocks, right? Awesome. And then obviously I have another portfolio for the actual stocks that I have invested in at this point and all of that. So I think we're similar in a lot of ways, but also different in the way that we approach the market as well. But same exact thing where we're both here to help and make this industry better. So what you said,
change the mentorship industry, I guess you could say.
Right. And then exactly what you said earlier, I mean, I couldn't agree with it more, where it's, yes, we're all working together, and there is this sense of, I guess, I wouldn't say exactly what you said, which wasn't competition, but it's like you're working together and you're trying to push forward, right? And that's exactly what my why was of opening up Sharmafx, not just the mentorship, but also the Instagram page, moving together. And that's why, reaching out to you and being like, hey, let's start this Instagram series of doing the weekly breakdowns for people, because yes, we're posting. I realized that yes, we're posting our trades on Instagram. We're doing the entire breakdown, but for a lot of people, they're unable to break past this barrier of, okay, well, I saw the past trades, but how do I use all this knowledge for future trades? Right. And that's where the idea of like, okay, well, then let's start this weekly series of doing the entire outlook from a fundamental and a technical perspective. Right.
Miss doing it.
And then
we'll be back this Sunday, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna get back into it this coming week. And then from there, it was like, okay, well then there's a lot of new traders who are hopping onto our lives, and I get like great like messages right after we're done. But for them, much of the barrier is like, well, I'm starting off, and then every challenge that they tell me that they're going through is the same thing that I've been through. And it was like, well, I wish someone had told me about that, right?
Mm,
And like months and months of just like me saying to myself, like, well, I wish someone had told me about that, right? Like happy to help, but and then that's where this series comes in, where it's like, all right, well then why not talk about it? No one talks about it in
yeah,
this industry. I go
100%.
on YouTube. I have thousands of videos on technical analysis. I have thousands of videos on fundamental analysis. So many strategies, but why isn't anyone talking about the real truth of
Yeah.
trading,
Yeah.
right? What goes behind it, the discipline that goes behind it, understanding
The
your why. A lot
mentality
of
that you
people,
need.
yeah, a lot of people that just hop in and they're just like, okay, well, I want to trade, I want to make money, but it's like, okay, well, you gotta have a reason much bigger than that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where the why of trading comes in, right? Your risk management.
Especially the hardest market in the world.
Yeah. I mean, if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. Everyone would be a
Yeah.
millionaire, billionaire.
I don't
But
want it to be easy.
yeah, it's not easy, and that's why when you see that little bit of success along the way, and then when I see like my students succeeding, and I'm pretty sure it's the same exact thing for you as well. When you see people succeeding that you've helped, it
Oh yeah.
becomes much better, and it
100%.
actually makes it a lot more worthwhile as well. Like you
We're
want to continue
succeeding
doing
together
it.
as a group.
Yeah, absolutely. So just going through those questions when you guys are watching this, just the questions that we went through, ask yourself the same exact thing. Like, why did you get into trading? How did you get into trading? What's keeping you in this industry? What's making sure that you come in today and you're not just going to leave in the next year because you gave up too easy or whatever it is, right? And then what are some of your biggest challenges that you're facing right now, and making sure that your why is strong enough to ground you and keep you motivated and help you keep your head down and keep pushing and know that there is light on the other side of the tunnel. I mean, we're examples of that. And you're gonna see, Raja as an example of it. And you have so many other people who are
Yeah.
examples of it. And then also understanding like your why needs to be what's keeping you motivated through those wins, through those losses, through that over risking, through that over trading, all of that. And then also understand like what is your specific goal in this industry? How are you going to contribute to it?
When it comes to your why, though, there's a good exercise you guys could do. It's better to do it with somebody else, but keep digging for that why. Like, all right, if your why is to make money, why do you want to make money? Maybe you came from a household that wasn't, you didn't grow up with much, and or an immigrant family. I think we could both relate with that. But there's many different things that you could dig into, and if you do it right, I've seen many people just break down and cry from like realizing why they're actually doing what they're doing. And once you get to that point, it may be like 6, 7 levels of asking yourself, okay, why that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Why that? And you keep digging. It's just like, holy shit. I just realized like why I'm doing exactly what I'm doing. And that's what keeps you going. So, we used to do that in college for during training camp for football. And I've seen dudes just like let out everything, and it's crazy to watch, very moving. But that's how you find your true why, and it's better to do with somebody else than just by yourself. It's more powerful, so highly recommend doing that.
Yeah,
But that
absolutely.
was good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Stephanos. And then
Oh, yeah.
I hope everyone was able to get some value out of this video. And we're definitely going to keep this series going and then probably bring some more
Oh, yeah.
content to help people.
I think bi-weekly is or weekly
Yeah,
is probably the best way to do it. Just release one a week.
absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys.
Have a good
Nice
one,
talking
everyone.
to you.